Hello, everybody. We're so excited to speak to you today and to discuss depression, anxiety, and stress. It's the number one health problem in the world today. And more women than men will suffer from depression, and most people just suffer in silence. The book that we're referring to is written by doctors Meredith and Meyer, and it's called Happiness is Your Choice and How to Win Over Depression. It's a brilliant book. I'd recommend it to anyone because it's an easy read, but it really helps you to sort out these issues. They say that most cases of depression are caused by repressed anger and bitterness. When we hold on to grudges against ourselves, someone else, and sometimes even God. The symptoms of depression are often just feeling sad, negative, helpless, hopeless, unhappy generally, pessimistic, and guilty, and sleeplessness as well. Some people in the Bible that showed symptoms of depression are Job after the death of his whole family and his children. Elijah had an amazing victory, but then when Jezebel went after him, he had to flee for his life. And he lay down in the ground after running far and said, God, just kill me. I want to die too. David also suffered with depression because he committed adultery with Bathsheba, and also he plotted and got her husband murdered in battle. So he, because of his secret sin, also battled with depression. So these doctors say depression is often a result of our own irresponsible behavior and lack of education. We suffer because we don't take responsibility for our own anger, sin, and guilt. Sleep is so important to our well-being, and we need to make sure that we're getting sleep. And I know that when people are feeling depressed, often sleep is the first thing to go. We all have stories of hardship, trials, and difficulties, but we want to focus today on how do we overcome them. So we have got a couple of people that we're going to ask to just share their little stories and to share the things that help them to overcome today. So thank you for joining us, and let's share together.
Hello, my name is Nishani Ford. I first tried to commit suicide at the age of 21, and since then I've lived through the terminal illness of my dad, the death of my mum, over a decade of every form of abuse in marriage, the betrayal and infidelity, a divorce, 2 retrenchments, and my son's active addiction over 10 years, spanning 7 rehabs, 22 failed overdoses, 4 psychiatric long-term hospitals, and a year of living on the street. All this while navigating single parenting and depression, anxiety, and unprecedented levels of stress. This has been a lekker cocktail spanning almost 30 years, where I felt completely forsaken and forgotten by God, left to live under a rock. But God kept me, and here are some of my nuggets. Firstly, admit and face your pain and anger. I promise you, you won't die from your pain. And when you allow yourself to feel anger, instead of directing it inwards, something happens. The gift of anger is boundaries are set, and it says, enough. Commit to the process of faith. God did not zap a magic wand over me to fix everything. It's taken decades of my life, but in that time, my faith muscle developed. I learned to ask, not why God, but who God are you when I'm lying in a fetal position, immobilized by pain. So don't wear your wishbone where your backbone ought to be. Then from a practical point of view, 4 things. Sleep, eat, move, and pray. Sleep 8 hours. Manage your energy versus manage your time. Eat like you love yourself. Move, get yourself out of bed before 10 a.m., even if it means wake-up calls from friends and checklists. Pray. Now this is one that you must prepare for. Tears are liquid words, so don't be afraid to cry them. But please, when you are depressed, anxious, or stressed out, it may not be the time to go looking up Bible verses. So have some on emergency. And remember that you are that you are not the victim of your thoughts or feelings. If you have authority to take dominion of your mind and bring it under the captivity of God. The word says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. My emergency verses: I have not seen the righteous forsaken, nor the children beg for bread. His grace is sufficient for me, for his strength is made perfect in my weakness. Note that grace is empowerment in action. So move, eat, sleep, and pray. The next thing, stay in gratitude, even if you are grateful that the day is over. Gratitude is the antidote to hopelessness. And in all things, give thanks, as the word says. Stay serving in church, in projects, and communities. Give generously. I know it's counterintuitive, and we are taught to fill our cups first. Nothing wrong with a healthy dose of self-love. But remember the story of Elijah and the widow, and the miracle oil came when she poured out of empty jugs. Don't be afraid to pour out your life. There is a miracle when we are completely dependent on God. One of the barriers to navigating stress and depression is shame. We see that Adam and Eve first hid from God when they felt shame. It disconnected them. Shame needs three things: secrecy, silence, and judgment. Shame says, I am bad. Guilt says, I did something bad. The message that shame gives women is that I am not good enough. For men, the message is, do not perceive me as weak. We have two instances where Jesus restored women out of shame. The one is the issue of blood, and she was cast out of society. But he stopped and he found her and he reestablished her place. The other woman was the adulteress that was pulled out of her bed. Jesus forgave her. He knelt down in the stand and he drew a line and he saved her life. Jesus is not afraid to get down in the dirt of your life. So the antidote to shame is empathy. Because when we have the courage to be vulnerable, take off our masks, and share our stories, we open the doorway to create connection with each other with these two simple words: me too. The connection finds us reconciled to God and to each other. In the book of Revelations, we read that we overcome the enemy by the words of our testimony and the blood of the Lamb. Jesus knew that by sharing our testimony, it would lose its power to control us, and our narrative would change. We become established by his blood to take authority in our lives as the creator of our lives and not the victims. And so, friends, I would like to invite you to a life of abundance promised by my Jesus. If you're in existing mode of work, eat, sleep, and truly not living, I invite you to this great adventure of a life in Christ. And I bless you with shalom, nothing missing, nothing broken, life as it should be. Thank you.